And I didn't give you guys any warning today, did I? Yeah, I didn't think I was even going to go live until just a couple of minutes ago. Let me tell you, it's been a heck of a week, but we got through it. We got through it together. We and now, because it's the weekend, we can take a little time to enjoy ourselves. Hey, check this out. And I know we're going later than we have been lately. I mean, this one's for the fellas on the West Coast. This one's for the guys who are, let's see, what are you guys doing? You're just waking up? Maybe we get some of those Western Europeans in here. Look at what we got here. Is this color? This is not the star chart I remember. What happened? Did somebody get some stuff done in the interim? Yeah, I went out and I spent a whopping $2 dues on these bad boys, and now I can, everything I need to know. That's not really true, but most of the stuff I need to know. Look, I got a little orange dot for gas giants. I got a little filled in blue dot. Remember Henke? If we check the, so it's 0305. If we check, here's my notes, right? So we'll still generate things here, but this is my clean and purdy one. Henke, remember, does not have any atmosphere. It doesn't have any water. Oh, I should figure out a way to mark whether or not it's got atmosphere. But it doesn't have any water, right? I don't know if these three down here do. I did it down here too. Corvinus, down by his lonesome, with the scout base. It's a water planet. See how it's blue? Look at that. Isn't that nice? You boy, Captain Goat. We named it. Captain, we named I tried to name a planet after you, but it wound up being a very small. Well, I named 100 planetoids after you. It wound up being an asteroid belt. So we got some belters out here in Go Away, and I was thinking, I was looking at the map here. I should tell you, somebody online, hey Penfold, somebody online said something stupid. I know, yeah, shocking, I know, but he said it in public, and he said it on the argument app. And somebody that I've read a bit of his work, a fellow by the name of Rollo Tomasi, he runs an outfit now called Masculine Geek, was calling him out. And it was about the Scorpadillo. And now I have no idea what they said because we have a mutual block going, me and the dumb person, which is to help my blood pressure. But everybody was giving him, was razzing the guy because scorpadillos are awesome. It's a scorpion armadillo. And I thought, and all of the cool kids have scorpadillos in their campaign. And I thought, oh, that's perfect. I have the perfect use for a scorpadillo. I have a scout and he's got nothing to do. And so I'll run a scorpadillo hunt on my next episode. This was a couple of days ago. And now, because we're doing one-to-one time and it's Friday Gamers, it's March 8th. And the scout jumped out of Blaine's World. Oh, you guys that give me content online, you got to give it to me in time to make some use of it. He's already jetted out. He's out in jump space right now. He's not going to land until the 13th. Of course, Chad, he's hanging out in the starport. He's not doing anything till the 15th. So what are we going to do? Well, there's a couple of things we could do. We could do what the typical pleb tier mediocre gamers with campaigns that die almost immediately do, and we could just stop. We could just stop time. We could go and do him first, and then come back and do the other guy. We're not going to do that. We're going to take a little bit of time. Remember, we're solo gamers here. We don't answer to anybody. We call the shots here, and we called the shot as one-to-one time. So we have an opportunity here. I'd like to take this opportunity to play some D&D. I want to know what's going on in the Wolflands, but I don't have my books with me, so we're rolling with the punches, doing what we can do. And I thought, well, what are we going to do to get together and chat and hang out? What can we do? And it occurred to me that if we're really going to have Corvinus be our solo planet, we're just going to do planetary adventures, we could spend a little bit more time developing Corvinus. So why don't we do that today? Oh, the fan's going off. Hold on. It's 60 degrees, so I got to turn the heat on because I'm an island bro. I'm a tropical fella. I thought, why don't we go ahead and fill in, kind of give a little more character to Corvinus. And I was tempted. So remember Corvinus. Let me just walk through this for those of you that are new to the We've got 7 of us. I'm checking in the chat. I see you, Penfold. I see you, Go Away. We got an A-class planet that's 7,000 miles in diameter. It's a little smaller than the Earth. It has thin atmosphere, so it's not great up there. It's so thin that people just hunker down. It's very cold, is what we decided. That the surface temperature up there is like always bitter cold. During parts of the year, it gets like below 30 degrees in real temperature. 100% water and ice cover. The other thing is you don't want to go on the surface anyway because aside from Innsmouth Station, which is built on an enormous iceberg, everybody lives on the surface of the water. We have a technology class C, so we can do that. We're talking straight abyss all the way. Get it? Deep lore. We're going to build some more lore for Corvinus. See, that's the title, right? This is how we tell the jokes because we think we're clever. 10 million population. So we got about, there's probably, and we rolled. When we got our population of in the tens of millions, we rolled a d6 and got 1. So 10 million. It's actually one of the bigger planets in our subsector. Our subsector has one planet with like 100 million and one with 1 million, and all the rest of these have like 100,000 or less. There's just not a lot of people in this subsector. At any rate, it's a feudal technocracy. So we got to thinking about what a feudal technocracy would mean, and it means that citizens are not citizens of a nation. This is not a post-Westphalian world, after all. It is instead, it's a post-Westphalian world where you are born into and you are subject to the corporation of your birth. There is some limited mobility and limited movement. Our hero, Chad Solo, he was born into the Black Reef, I believe it was, corporation. And he went off and served in the Navy, maybe. I can't remember. I got to go back and check my notes. At any rate, we've got these 8 syndicates. Now, I rolled 2d6 to find out how many there were. It is a technocracy, so that's where I was like, oh, cool, we could have corporations. These are technocrats that are running things. And I would imagine that as they are syndicates, that there are various factions within each of those, in the same way that in any given nation on Earth, there are various factions. So we can play around with that a little bit too, but really today what I'd like to do is get your advice. I have lost my... There it is. Okay. So since we've got our scout bopping around up here, jumping. He's going to Intanius, and that's where he'll be next Friday. Later on this week, like Tuesday, Wednesday, we can actually start playing that out and pushing him. But I don't want to get more. Right now, we're already almost a week ahead of him. I don't want to get more than a week ahead of him if we can help it. So that means we can have one guy just do planet side. He may get chased off the planet. Now, he is trying to leave the planet, and he has earned He has earned a high passage, I think it was high passage, on the next ship outbound. But whether he makes it there or not, that's kind of up in the air, right? Because he was dealing with an administrator who, I have my computer right here. Let me go to johnmollison.com. This is where I have been typing up my session notes, receipts or it didn't happen, right? That's on the one side. On the other side, you want to take good notes because you forget stuff. So Chad's first freelance, and we gave a personality to his handler, I thought. Her name was, let's see, so he was hired by Black Reef. Chad Solo was hired to recover some important salvage. Due to cargo, was Black Reef Solo game when travelers? There could be It's not in that one. I'm sorry. Where is she? 1,000-mile airless. Yeah, I can't find it now. We have our first foil. He grew up. Oh, there we go. He grew up one of about 1.5 million citizen subject subscribers to the Black Reef Syndicate. Dad was a lifelong logo man. That would be like a banner man. That worked out for a time, but mom died, dad retired, and life got complicated in a way dad didn't expect. So our hero, Chad Solo, spent 12 years in a submersible working with the Black Reef on its side. Oh, that's right. Chad married the wrong woman, and when he was serving in the Navy, she smacked up his muscle sub and ran off with one of the other Navy guys. That's what his deal is. So he wants off planet so he can forget about that. Joan Alice is the. Here we go. She is an affiliate subdirector for Black Reef's Bioacquisitions Department, and she asked him to go salvage. There's a guy, a diplomat. It doesn't matter, and that means, and he went and he was stuffed into like a stasis cube when the sub went down, his like transportable sub. They were smuggling him in. She told, now bear in mind, she told Chad that he is just an economic advisor and negotiator of sorts. That's what she told him. This guy could be anything, right? But because he was part of a crew that she trusted, he's the odd man out, and it's a good bet she's going to tie up that loose end by having him whacked in Innsmouth Station before he can get off the planet. And one of the ways that he can protect himself is by signing on with one of the other corporations, right? So Black Reef, I'm just going to write down that Joan Alice is the foil, right? She is an admin that hired, and we got two other companies that we came up with, Hydronics and Wayland Tsunami. So I need 5 more, and at this point, we're already 15 minutes into the episode, and I haven't even told you what I need from you guys. Do you guys have some ideas for corporations? I got to be honest with you. I was really tempted to just like arbitrarily declare that this smallest corporation down here, and we can actually give some sizes to these. Black Reef, Hydronics, and Wayland Tsunami are 3 of the biggest corporations. We only have 10 million to play with. That's already 4.5. So these guys, if we go 5.5, 6.5, 7.5, okay, so we can actually bump these up a little bit. If we go like 1.25, basically we're going to divide these into 4 different stratuses here, right? So there's another 2.5. So 4.5, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. We're just going to call this 0.5. And I was thinking about calling this one like Baby Sweets Incorporated, because this ride never ends. Let's check the chat. Let's see what you guys are talking about, right? Captain Go Away gives me cherry. Oh, that's some local slang, brother. Eurypterid, undersea scorpidillos. Yeah, but then it's like a spaceship game, and I want to be able to conk them on the head. Do you think the population table produces unreasonably small numbers? We have this planet of 10 million. We have that rock with 10 people on it. Yes. Well, yes and no. It produces small numbers, but we can come up with reasons for that. At first blush, they look unreasonable, but the obstacle is the journey, right? Trying to figure out why this asteroid belt has 1 billion people living in it is way more interesting than trying to figure out why another Earth-type planet has 7 billion people on it. Why does this perfect agricultural world only have 500 people? Is it a reservation for a certain kind of person? Is it have the ecologists run amok and they have declared it a wildlife sanctuary? If you have a tainted atmosphere, then maybe there's like some wild virus that is uncurable, that the only people down there are a research station. That is the stuff of nightmares, and nightmares are the stuff of adventure. So it produces crazy results, but that's for the good. Cyrix says it does tend to produce smaller populations you might anticipate. Inflate by 1 if it makes sense, or do whatever. Traveler's pretty great with the golden rule. No, it's not just Cyrix. Where's the mute function? If I was any good at this, it produces the number it produces because that's the game we're playing. If you don't like Traveler, Proto-Traveler, don't play it. Also, I'm sure it was play tested for decades before it came out. There is a little bit of guidance on that. I mean, yeah, look, you can do whatever you want, but if you want to do whatever you want, then just go buy. One of these days, I'm gonna write the Calvin Ball RPG, and I'm just gonna say, "Lol, like, do whatever, bruh," on every page, and it's gonna be 250 pages, and I'm gonna, my name's gonna go down with that MCDM guy as one of the great all-time scammers. Why am I playing if I'm just going to ignore all the stuff? However, Cyric, I will give you the benefit of the doubt, and I will point out that when you go to the planetary, you are given license to create whatever world you want. If I want to have a Mad Max world, the referee has the responsibility for mapping the universe before the actual gameplay begins. Thanks for the advice. The universe. The entire universe is not necessary, however, as only a small portion can be used at any one time. Yeah, in unsupervised play, the best kind, one of the players can generate worlds and perform mapping on a turn-by-turn or adventure-by-adventure basis. Hey, that's a great idea. We should do that. Generally, the universe is mapped in convenient segments called subsectors. Convenient size is 8 by 10, as it says. To create an initial subsector, use this procedure, world occurrence. If you don't like 50-50, if you want a subsector that has more than 40 planets on average, add a +1 to the die roll. You will wind up with, let's see, what's 80 by, where's my calculator? Oh, it's in my phone. 2/3 of 80 is going to be about 48, there's going to be about 50 planets on average. If you want a more sparsely populated, hope you got a lot of jump drive 3s. And this is probably worth thinking about for a moment. If you put a -1 on this roll, so that you've only got 1 in 3 hexes have a planet, you're only going to wind up with 25 planets on your subsector map. And that means planets are going to be separated by 3 hexes in a lot of cases. You won't have a lot. Well, let's think about that. On average, any given planet is likely going to is surrounded by 6 hexes. 2 of those will have planets on them. So maybe I'm wrong on that. But I could foresee a subsector that has huge gaps in it. And that's going to result in 2 things. One, you're probably going to see a different mix of spaceships. You're not going to see a whole lot of free traders in that subsector. You'll see more of the big 400-tonners, more of the big 1,000-tonners. Instead of the small crew kind of jumping from planet to planet, if you can find them, then maybe you can hire the Black Raven team. You're going to have to deal with starships that have a lot of big crews. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That changes the nature and character of the campaign that you're running. It also means that you will have these like fingers of systems that you're forced to jump along those systems, and there will be choke points where there may be 4 hexes, like a gap of 3 or 4 hexes through a huge chunk of your subsector. Take a look at ours. We've got the standard 50-50, and look up here. Like you're going to have to make a jump to go way. If you want to jump across here, this is just with the 50-50. So I suspect that you're going to see a lot more of these little choke points where you don't have any choice. You can't make a jump to get past it. Those planets are going to be very important, and those are going to be the hotbeds of intrigue. That's an interesting thought experiment. He does mention here the worlds may be further classified in terms of gross characteristics. This process applies only to the single inhabited world in a star system. Additional planets should be generated as necessary. People will tend to gravitate towards a single planet. That answers your earlier question. Any number of descriptive characteristics are possible and should be generated to more fully describe the specific world. For example, I just arbitrarily decided that Corvinus was just at the very edge of the outside edge of the Goldilocks zone. That's part of why it's so cold. It's part of why the atmosphere is so thin. Also, it's smaller than the Earth. It makes sense that the atmosphere would be thinner because the gravity is lower. You're going to have a much thinner atmosphere. Like Mars is, like half the size of Earth? Each world should be allocated at least one page in a central notebook. But he does. Oh, now I'm not going to be able to find the exact quote. There is a line in here about. In most cases, the instructions concentrate on number reserving letters for use by referee to describe extraordinary situations. Yeah. He does say, look, if you want to make up your own planet, just make up your own planet. Yeah, alternate world forms. Several alternatives to the traditional spherical form are possible. I wrote a book once in which there was a torus world, and the moon bopped in and out of the hole in the donut. And it was really fun to think about what that means. A torus world, a donut-shaped Earth, has some really weird gravity effects. Like gravity is stronger outside the donut than it is inside the donut. The tidal effects of a moon oscillating back and forth are really wild to think about. In fact, figuring out where the Lagrange points are around a torus world, crazy amount of fun. Think about what a sunset would look like on a torus world. It depends on where you're at, right? Because this is not just a halo. We're not talking about not a Dyson sphere. What do you call the halo, the ring world, the Niven ring world, where everybody's always looking up at the sun. In this case, because it is roughly Earth size, and I actually sat down and I read up on it about how big it would be, how big it would have to be, and what the effect of rotation would be in the seasons. Oh, it's crazy fun. I wish I could remember which book I put that in. I think it's in one of my Space Trucker books. I wrote a series of books about a guy named Captain Sudden. Captain Sudden was his name. And Sudden was his last name. And he got involved in a whole bunch of interstellar hijinks. But he was a space trucker with a ship called the Jade Rose. And that was one of the worlds he went to. And it was a lot of fun. Alternate world forms are not included in the world creation sequence, but may be provided on a sparing basis. They are ideal for large population worlds. Rosettes, 3 or more equal masses. Ooh, that's fun. Here we got ring worlds, sphere worlds, gravity generators necessary. Yeah. To determine the general quality and capability, the tables indicate general types or categories of goods in general use on the world. Yeah, I can't find it now where he actually says, look, this is for generating on the fly, but don't be afraid to generate your own characteristic. Generate other information which may be pertinent. This may include details of other planets, radiation characteristics of the star, types of terrain, unique encounters, data on flora and fauna, industrial agricultural capacity, and so on and so forth. The one thing I will say is this. There is a huge difference between generating a world from a whole cloth, sitting down and saying, I have the intention of generating this world. I'm going to make a Mad Max world. Well, what does that mean? It's going to be Earth-type size. I mean, this might be a useful exercise. We're just killing time here. Why don't I do that? If I were to make a Mad Max world for this campaign, I would go down the list and I would say, okay, well, I don't know about... You know what? I'm going to give him... obviously, it's the kind of planet that's got stuff worth fighting over, and people are kind of stuck there. So I'm going to give it an E starport. And then I'm going to give it an Earth-type size. It's 8,000 miles across. The atmosphere is going to be very dry. I'm going to call it thin. No, I'm going to call it standard. Maybe standard tainted. We're just going to call it standard. Oh, I forgot. That size, planetary atmosphere, hydrographic percentage. I want there to be just a little bit of water. Let's call it 20%. It's a desert planet. It's going to have some water, and people are going to fight over that. And not all of that water has to be at the surface. Maybe it's got huge underground aquifers that are only reachable using, and we'll get to the tech level in a minute, 1940s tech, and it's really hard to get to. So the guys, he who controls the water controls the world. The population is only going to be, call it 10 million. It's a desert planet, lots of places to live, and then the governmental type is 0, no government. And the law level, of course, is there is no law. And that takes us to the technological index matrix, which comes from a whole line of stuff. And I say, you know what? I want to go with, we've got radio maybe? So maybe we go with 5. You've got no auto rifles, no body pistols. Maybe we go 6 just for the missiles. 6 gives you fission. No, I don't like that. We're going to stick with oil. So 5 is the tech level. And look, there's Mad Max land. Now, if at any point I said, oh, I'm going to go with 862, how many people live here? Well, I don't know. I'm going to turn to the dice, and I'm going to roll the dice. And then I go, well, I don't like that. I'm going to roll them again. Then I lied to myself, right? I didn't get the results I wanted. And when you're playing a game, just be honest with what you're... I like my camera. One of these days I need to. One of these days I am gonna run like a not GoFundMe because they hate people like me, but I'm gonna run a GoFundMe for the channel. What's the good GoFundMe? The one that doesn't hate normal people. There's a couple of Christian ones, maybe one of those. Anyway, just be honest about what you're doing, right? If you're gonna design a planet, It's fine, nobody cares. But we're playing a solo game. We're not gonna do that here, because we're playing a solo game. And the game as a solo player is to respond to the dice. Let the dice fall where they may. So I got some Cetic astronomy. What, I don't know what that is. Penfold. Can I call it CTech? Astro, and I'm gonna punch this up a little bit, okay? Astronomics. Yeah, well, that sounds a little more technical, doesn't it? Doesn't that sound a little more science fiction-y? Rigs are us. It would be backwards, right? You can also break up sections of a subsector with these density modifiers if you want to form clusters of systems. Oh, that's a very good point, Cyrek. I hadn't thought about that. You could just say, well, up here in the the core worlds. So for those of you that are fans of Nick Cole, and I am, even if he's a dirty meme thief. We all are. It's okay, Nick, if you're watching. He has a book. He has a series of books about the galaxy as a dumpster fire. And it's basically Afghanistan in outer space. In his universe, you have these wealthy core worlds. And then you've got these like middle-class outer worlds that are always fighting and trying to overthrow the core worlds. And then you've got the frontier out here. And in his universe, the people in the core world set off on sublight drives when Earth was going bad. And then things came back together again pretty quickly. And while it did, the people that recovered from the collapse of the Earth Roman Empire developed faster than light drives. So they went, pa-choo, and they beat these guys. Well, these generation ships, when they get here, they thought they were hot stuff and they were going to run things. And they were like backwards technologically. And some of these ships had bad things happen on them. Like the people that came out were like Pandorum style monsters. So a lot of interesting things going on in that. If you are a fan of science fiction and you like big sprawling universes, give it a look. I wish I could remember what it's called. Hey, chat, can you just look up the Galaxy's a Dumpster Fire? Oh, I know what it's called. Galaxy's Edge, because they came up with that name first, and then Star Wars did, and that was a big part of the success, because people went, I'll find Galaxy's Edge. And they found Nick Cole's wonderful writing. Also, Soda Pop Soldier, one of the best lit RPG books you can find. I don't think decades, maybe a decade, but yeah, you should know the number will be lower numbers, so less populated worlds are more likely. It's just, no, Jeremy Herndon, it's not just a ring world. A torus, so a ring world, I'm going to get this out again so I can draw. A ring world has a star at the center, and then you go 93 million miles and you build a 93 million mile superhighway, and you spin it, and that spinning gives you gravity, okay? That centrifugal force, right, anyway, a donut world, if this is your star, you have a little tiny donut out here that is, I don't want to quote it because I can't remember. I think it's the donut has the mass of the Earth. It's actually more massive, because what winds up happening is, so here's my picture of a little donut, okay? And it's thinner than you might expect. All right, so here's our world. And remember, the sun is 93 million miles away. The moon is right here, and I had it kind of oscillating up and down. But what happens is because the sun is over here, the ring is like it has to spin here. This is what it looks like. So I could turn up. Let me turn off some light here. So the sun is over there, right? So the ring, if you point it like this, these guys are getting sunlight, and it's night for this guy. But then when I turn, so it's daytime, and look where my finger is. Oh, look, it's nighttime now for 12 hours, and then the sun comes up. But that is also true if you're on this side. So time zones get really bonkers. And also you have this little mini eclipse every day where you've got the sun goes down behind the planet. So imagine you're standing inside the ring. And then when it continues to spin, the sun comes back up until, oh, look, it's nighttime again, right? And that nighttime is a full, for the guys on the inside, is a full, 12 hours, I guess you could say. But the whole time it's nighttime, you can see daylight over here. So imagine what astronomy would look like when you live on a planet like that. It's really fun, wild. The universe is an amazing place, and it's all ours. God gave it to us. Wasn't that generous of him? What a good guy. It's an anagram for too many secrets. Give, send, go. Thank you, Penfold. That's what I'm thinking of. I don't think decades, but yeah, you should lower that number. Oh, so there is a comment on that's worth looking into as well. On the world generation, where you get to population, he does actually say population. The digit is an exponent of 10. This may be viewed as a number of zeros following 1. Thus, a population of 6 indicates approximately a million. Population is generated. See also notes on population at the end of the section. Oh, all right. Thanks for that. Population density, Sphere World's Technological Index. Wait, where's the end of the section, guy? This procedure is intended to provide a wide variety of features for worlds. A population of 6 indicates 1 million. It can be construed to cover a range from slightly more than the next lowest level to slightly less than the next highest. In other words, these numbers are not absolute. It is not 1 times 10 to the 6th. It is, if I have, here's my 6 zeros, it means I could have anywhere from 100,000 to 10 million. I'm somewhere in the millions. Now, the way I've done it is I just say, oh, I'm in the millions. I'll roll a d6, and that's how many millions I've got. Oh, I'm in the 10 millions. That's how many I've got. Now, that does mean that my population density, if you look at a log scale, it's got these weird jumps where you go 6, oh, and then nobody, and then oh, and then nobody. So here's our population size, right? And then, oh, there's nobody at the 7, 8, 9, and then we go up. So mine is a little bit different. But you could, when you say, oh, I've got a million, why don't I roll 2d6 twice to add further contrast? And I'm going to add this many, 100,000, and I'm going to subtract this many 100,000. So I'm going to add 9 and subtract 10. I've got 900,000. And in that way, I'll generally be still within that range band. What's the anagram? Some of you guys, let's see. I don't think, where are we at? C-Tech Astronomy is from a 92 heist movie about stealing a codebreaker machine. Okay, all right, so these guys are infotech and security. There you go. That's good to know. We love stealing content from other media. I'll always just answer what Larry Nivens were called because you initially called them Halo. Oh, right, I got you. Right, Halo is a ring world, but it's not the only ring world out there. You're right. Seaweed farms. All right. Now, bear in mind these are large mega corporations, so they are also going to be involved in a lot of other things. For example, Archer Daniel Midlands in our world does a heck of a lot more than steal billions from us by overpricing everything and engage in allegedly. No, is it? It's not allegedly, is it? Like they admitted to it. Like they stole billions by rigging grain prices, and then when they were caught, they said, "I'm sorry," and they paid like millions in fines. But they got to keep the billions. So that's a pretty good racket if you can get it. I imagine that kind of thing goes on Corvinus all the time. Nick Cole books are dangerously unputdownable, says Macho Mandoff, much like our host. Aw, you're so sweet. But I still need three more. Do we want to have the nagging the nagging people that just create confusion and sow discord? If we included this corporation, then it would be hilarious forever, right? And they will just call them. Well, okay. Again, you don't want to lock yourself in too tight. So I'm gonna call this. The other thing is this name is dangerously close to pizza purveyors, but we're gonna call it Baby Sweets Consulting. And they are engaged in this is like I don't even know. I'd have to think about this a little bit. They're the poison pill. We'll say they are directly in charge of Baby Sweets Consulting is financial instruments. Yeah, and they're heavy into media. So there's our media purveyors. Is this there's only 500,000 of them. So out of the whole population, there's not so many of them, but they wield kind of enormous power with respect to their numbers. And then we need two more guys. And Whale and Tsunami, of course, like their primary focus is on everybody, the main industry on this planet, remember, is meat and pharmaceuticals. And everybody has at least a division engaged in those two rackets. If we wanted to know what Seaweed Farms is, so they are engaged in what would you call that? Industrial manufacturing. These guys make the large harvesters that ply the seas and strip the masses of seaweed that can be used to generate hydronics. By the way, these guys are into agriculture, but their agriculture is primarily hydroponics. That's why they're called hydronics. And I can't remember what Black Reef was into. I'll write that down later. Whale and Tsunami, of course, they are the leading meat processor. So a lot of these guys, when you catch a deep hump whale, they're not real whales, right? They're megafauna, but they're not whales because they don't come up to the surface. There's too dangerous up there. If you are too far out, you can always have these guys process your deep whales. These guys, and they'll do it at a premium, of course, but it's better than letting that meat go to rot in your sub-freezing cooler. I don't know. I'm just making it up as I go along. Seaweed Farms. We can go to our making bank, stacking bills, going on an adventure. When we have a spaceship, we can. Do you think there's any mining on this planet? We can roll to see what. Who are we looking for here? Everybody's got something to do. I need two more suggestions, guys. This will be canon for the rest of the game. I like Seaweed Farms. Well, I spelled it S-E-E. Is that okay, or do we want S-E-A? I'm good either way. Infotech Security for C-Tech Astronomics. I mean, these guys are also. We'd have to think about this. One of these guys probably vie for the contract to maintain the Innsmouth Station starport, and that might be like one of the big crown jewels. Corporation of Hunger U, Manganese Modules. Is that a name? I spelled it C because I like Garbo puns. Yeah, so do I. I'm going to leave it as E. S-E-E. So Seaweed Farms, and any one of these guys. Now, if I do have some hired goons come after our boy Chad Solo, and then I might roll to see if he can find a patron, and we'll roll we'll roll some dice to figure out which one of these guys they come from. All right. Well, here's one thing we can do to figure out what our next one is: Red Blobster. All right. You got it. I don't know what Red Blobster does. We'll find out by rolling on the table. What do you say? Red Blobster. We're going to roll here and find out what are you really into, man. I forgot to designate. The white die will be the tens die. So I get a 55, and they get AFVs. Wait. AFVs? Is that armored fighting vehicles? What? Trade and commerce. It's not specified here. Those are crazy expensive. All right, so this is our Red Blobster is our military industrial applications. So the primary weapons manufacturer on the planet, and then they produce a line of armored vehicles that makes a lot of sense. Well, I would also suggest that they are the primary metals refineries, right? So the steel plants, because there's going to be a lot of armor. And then this last one, I think we need a design studio, right? Who are the best architects? Who are the best? I mean, everybody's got, like, Seaweed Farms probably is really good at that. Little apparatuses of Qualish, the vehicles look like lobsters. Maybe they're named after, like, I don't know. But we're going to be able to have some fun with logos for these guys, too. They will take on more character as we play the game. Remember that we don't have to designate this stuff right now. We could just say Seaweed Farms, but just kind of going down the list, what are like the major industries that you would expect to see? Agriculture, but see, Hydronics does agriculture. They do more dry farms, whereas Seaweed Farms does more industrial manufacturing and harvesting. So they've got the inline track on harvesting, right? Because they actually build the best harvesters. Now, perhaps Red Blobster, they have a division that makes harvesters. They're not quite as good, right? These are the, like, Fiat to the Maserati kind of situation. I'm just looking down this. If everybody's got pharmaceuticals, we've already got everything else. We could do, I think the only other one we have left is a mining corporation. And that may be for mining / petrochemicals. So, do you guys have a corporation from a 1980s movie that, what about, or something that's very memeable from mining and petrochemicals? Do we call it, Crimson Meridian? Oh, Brian Renninger, I like that suggestion, but we already have Baby Sweets Consulting. So we've got that base covered already. I think we're dipping into that well too many times if we call... there's already a Dynaco, though, right? Amco? How about... Well, okay, I like where your head's at, guys. Penfold, Jeremy Herndon, these are already things. Think about where we're at. We're on Corvinus, right? So do we call it Corvco? Pearl Petrochemical Earth Augering Radioactives Limited. Pearl, that's really good. I like that. Pearl, but let's punch it up a little bit, right? Pearl, what's a good, like, we've got Astronomics. Let's, like, sci-fi it up. Brutish Petroleum. A Corvico is where I was going with that, Penfold. But I like Pearl because we're underwater, right? So we've got this whole, like, oyster thing going. I didn't even think about that. Somebody here is probably involved with, let's see, not SeaTech. Who else would? Wayland Tsunami probably has a, Pearl is going to have they're into mining and petrochemicals. But probably Black Reef has a mega pearl mining operation, right? Where they're dialed into seaweed farms and they've got the individual harvesters. There's some pearl, like by and large, or pearl consolidated. How about that? Pearl consol. We want to give it a global feel, even if they only control like a million people. But a million people ain't bad. If there's a million people that live and work for you, and they're all living in factory towns, they're all living in company towns. The difference is these companies care about their employees, and they want them to live a solid middle class life because middle class people buy lots of stuff. So there you go. We now have 8 corporations, and these are 8 factions. Mother of Pearl Consolidated. Do we have another? Pearl Consolidated Industries. Industrial. Something like that. I don't know. I got to think of a way to punch up science fiction-wise. Nobody's got robotics, I notice. That may be... Let's put robotics in, although we don't really do a whole lot of robots, do we? But that may come in handy if the Black Raven ever comes down here and an old Cobalt 15, needs to get some repairs on his servos. Now the question is, as far as these guys are concerned, now we know what they do, and they're all kind of like dirty in their own way. I mean, it's a feudal. So these guys you think of them as barons, right? They're all kind of jockeying and vying, and we know who the 3 strong ones are: Blackroot, Hydronics, and I keep thinking of Stevie Nicks. I gotta rewrite that. Probably because of that one guy on my feed that's always posting Stevie Nicks and Eagles stuff, which I don't mind. He's a good guy, and like he's just got this quirk where he's just like really into Stevie Nicks. It keeps things fresh, man. What do I want to see a whole bunch of D&D stuff? Ugh. I got enough of that on my timeline already. It's nice to have that little bit of spice that keeps my ex Twitter feed hunky dory. Now, why do we go through all this? And really, it's just because this is going to help us when we run into Chad solo again, and it gives me something to do that we can kind of play around with this planet. I want to try to flesh this planet out as much as possible, and at some point, I may generate a planetary map, and we can start putting these guys down. We already know, I'll have to go back and rewatch the video, how far Black Reef's primary installation is. It's like an 8-day sail so they're on the far side of the world. Gab is like a ghost mall now. Corvinus, Onet, Ober, Advancer, Mercantiles. Chum. That's pretty good. I like Chum, too. I didn't even... I was thinking it was like a chud thing, but Chum is like sharks in the water. That's pretty good. Yeah, a lot of great ideas here. I wish I had 2 more of these to fill out. But we now have 8 factions. I mean, I'm just saying, if we wanted to run some kind of like a Braunstein, we've already got the 8 factions. We know what they're doing. We know some relative strengths and weaknesses. And, we can have some fun with that. I'm not promising anything. I'm just showing you that in about 30 minutes, you can make up 8 factions and really go to town. I don't have anything else to do today. I just wanted to get together and chat with you guys. Show off what I've been up to. Show off my fancy colored pencils. Wow, isn't that tight? It's a sci-fi game, and we're just going straight into the 1930s. But yeah, that's our page 2 for Corvinus. And in about a week, we're going to get caught up with both Chad and our boy. But until then, we'll just kind of keep... Fediverse is the new hotness. Yeah, if you want, is that true? Is there an actual social media platform called Fediverse? I thought that was, well, I don't know. Minds is pretty dead. That would be true. So for those of you that don't know, Gab cut pencils in multiple colors, including black, if you can believe it. Gab said you're not allowed to post pictures or videos unless you give us like $6 a month. And it really kind of put the kibosh on a lot of the fun of that platform. but I don't use that because there's just no. Honestly, the noise to signal. I don't think that's necessarily such a bad thing. The noise to signal ratio is too high for my patience. Um, I was an early supporter, but backed out after a little while. Let's see. Fediverse is real. It stands for Federated Universe. So it's Federated Universe. So is it one of those kind of like there've been a couple? I know Blue Sky is the one that you go to if you want to be hounded by something awful forum refugees, otherwise known as Redditors. And what was the other one? Not Mines. There was another. Oh, Mammoth. Was that the one that was supposed to be distributed network? Each instance hosts itself, but they federate with each other. Oh, okay. So do you have a lot more control over what you see? Because if I can't clean up my feed, I'm just not interested. There's way too much dross, way too much chaff. I need the wheat. I need the Bro SR. I need the like Mastodon. That's the one. I was close. Thank you, Penfold. I need a solid core of guys that I can just insinuate myself into and then comment on what they're doing and make it look like I'm smarter than I really am just because I'm standing next to smarter people. That's my secret with the Bro SR. Hey, listen, man, we've been at this almost an hour. Thanks for coming along for the ride. It's Friday, gamers. Go play some games. Have some fun. Shoot some robots, you helldivers. You know, I'm a civilian. I don't get the right to vote, but I stand with Super Earth and keep doing what you do. Seaweed Farms consistently marks itself as organic while just blanket dragging that ocean flora for everything it's worth. Wouldn't surprise me. Hey, good night. Already fought the Terminids. Cyric, keep up the good work. Super Earth needs men like you on the front lines. Till next time, I'm praying for you.